All right, people, let's see what happens. Let's continue the story of Joseph. Chapter 41. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, that Pharaoh dreamed a dream. And that's what all makes sense. So 2 years later, Joseph still in prison. Just imagine being wrongfully accused of being in prison that long. Watching other people leave, other people get out. Then Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine, so Pharaoh awoke. And he slept that and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled. And he sent and called for all the magicians, ain't nothing new under the sun, of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret unto Pharaoh. Then spake the chief butler. Now he remembered. It's all about timing. Most people are like, man, why he ain't get out? Life is about timing. There's a season for everything. Life is about time. You can't rush nothing. That's why he say, within your patience possess your soul. Life is about timing. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servant, and put me in work in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. He dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored into my office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came into Pharaoh. Look at that. That's why you do what God says you to do. You never know who's listening or who could assist you. Don't be afraid. Do what God has called you to do. No matter if things going one way or the other way. He could have been mad, but like, man, I ain't telling them nothing. Forget that. I know what it means, but I ain't telling them nothing. But he did. He told them. And it's benefited him 2 years later. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream and interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. You see how he always gave reverence to God? It's not me that do this. It's God. So you got to think about it. If God gives you gifts, it's always to reverence him. It's not for us to be puffed up with pride like we something. Like half of the people who do soothsaying and go to psychic readings and stuff for money. It's like they want to have the power. False divination. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, in my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, flat shed and well favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill favored and lean fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as the beginning, so I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered then and blasted with the east wind sprung up afterward them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it unto me. Why he couldn't tell? Why the magicians didn't know it? because it's all about God. They'll worship some other gods. And think about this. Think about what could happen. You got all these people that swear they wise and knows things. And then this man of God come around and he interpreted the dream perfectly, and he gives credit to God. Ain't that amazing? And Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. God have showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. Look how he referenced God. The 7 good kind of 7 years, and the 7 good years are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kind that came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty years, blasted with the east wind, shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. And he's an Egyptian. And behold, there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. He's telling the truth now. And for that, the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God. And that's what a prophecy is. Will shortly bring it to pass. If God says something, it's going to happen. Now think about how many fake prophets and fake teachers you listen to on Facebook or YouTube or whatever. This year, and nothing ever happened. You need to stop listening to them. You got to be careful. You got to have discernment this day and age. Because a lot of times people just say things to get you happy, get you hyped up, make you feel good for the day so they can get a lot of views. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out of a man discreet and wise and set him over the land of Egypt. Now look at what he said. He said, find somebody wise. He didn't say, hey man, put me up there. He didn't say that. He said, find somebody wise. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. Now you got to think about something about Joseph. His dad trusted him too, to be overseer over his brothers in a certain fashion. Hey man, go see what your brother them doing, because he was trustworthy. Pharaoh, trustworthy. Jail, trustworthy. Let's see what happens this time. And lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in all the eyes of his servants. He gave him some advice, just talking. Hey man, how about you just try this? Do this right here. Just talking. Regular talk. And Pharaoh said unto his servant, can we find such as one as this man, in whom the Spirit of God is? The what? And what the Spirit of God is? Some of us got gifts just like that. We just got to believe it and receive it and trust it, that the God is using you to do what he's called you to do. And open your mouth sometimes. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according to thy word shall all my people be ruled. Now think of the preparation. He was trustworthy in his dad's eyes. He was trustworthy in Pharaoh's eyes. He was trustworthy in the prison. And it's like it's coming, his faith is starting to come to fruition. Thou shalt be over my house, and according to thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. I just want to be rich. How about this though? What about, instead of trying to be rich, being made ruler over somebody else's wealth? Ain't that amazing? Well, I gotta work hard for what I got. How about being ruler over somebody else's stuff that you didn't even work for? All you did is just do what God asked you to do. Embrace your gift. Put what God put on your heart to do and say. And you're going to gain favor. Oh, God's want to get you rich. I think I'd rather have this. Favor. I'd rather have favor than anything. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And the thing is, he didn't go through no Democratic Party. He didn't get no votes or nothing like that. He just was favored at the right place at the right time. You got to set yourself in place. Oh, no, you don't. You just got to do what God tells you to do. You just got to operate in his will. That's all. Everything else will come. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all else will be added to you. Think about the fruits. Trustworthy, loving man, doing the natural, how he was, wasn't being no different than what he was, same way he was with it. Hey, Dad, I had a dream. Just using what he knew that God gave him. It wasn't nothing special, like extra that he did. He just did what he was called to do, naturally. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in ventures of fine linen. He didn't ask for it. And put a gold chain about his neck. Children of God don't need to wear jewelry. That was somebody told me the other day. Oh, really? If God want to give you a gold chain on you, you put it on and you flex. No, don't be prideful. But what you do? No, Pharaoh, no, Pharaoh. And he made him to ride in the second chariot. It's like he just put him in a limo, which he had. And they cried before him, bowed the knee, and he made him rule over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paneah. Say that twice. And he gave him his wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went out all over the land of Egypt. Now he get out. Now think about it. You get out of jail in a day. Within a day, you are restored. Not by your might, but by your spirit, God. Not by his actions, but by the will of God. Ain't that amazing? Just in a day. I'll tell you how long he's been in jail, falsely accused, this and that, tossed to and fro. Then all of a sudden, in one day, everything changes. Just out of nowhere. Time and chance happen to us all. Don't say that the former days were better than these. You don't require wisely concerning this. Proverbs. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt. Think about it. He probably was doing such things like this in his father's land. That's why Jacob trusted Joseph. Hey, man, go check on your brothers. See what they're doing. They too busy out there playing around and running the streets. But you seem like you're different from the rest of them. I wonder why. Because he was chosen. The food of the field which was round about every city laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, with Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest, On, bearing to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God said, he had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. You know, we love to run from problems as people, man. It's getting too hard over here. If God moves you, he moves you. And sometimes he got to move you just like he moving Joseph, in strange ways. Just continue the course. And the 7 years of plenty that was in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of dark began to come, according to as Joseph had said. And the dark was in all lands. But in all the land of Egypt, there was bread. That's why sometimes you got to put the right people in the right place. A lot of companies and places fall because the wrong people and the wrong people are being set in place. But it is what it is. It is what it is. It happens. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried unto Pharaoh for bread, and Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, go unto Joseph. What he said to you, do. Look at that favor. Just imagine if you're a boss or a manager somewhere. Don't you want somebody that can do the work and you just sit back and relax? Like having somebody you can trust and charge, you know you're going to do the right thing. Think about that. He said promotion comes from the Lord. Just do the right thing. That's it. And the famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all countries came to Egypt, to Joseph, for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in the land. Great story so far. Great story so far. Great story. And you know what's weird, people? If you're a child of the Most High God, you probably experience such things in your life like this. Not exactly like Joseph, but similar things. Tests, trials, people coming upon you to test your character, to test your nature, to see if you what you claim you are. I can give you story upon story, just in regards to my own life. And this is true. I'm gonna give you a few. You know, I gotta give you something. Because when I read that story, I can relate to a lot of things that's going on. When God came into my life, man, I thought everything was gonna just go smooth, and everything started falling apart a little bit. But I did gain favor in so many ways, in so many different places. Not because I was perfect, not because of anything of my own actions, just because God was with me, and God been with you too, I'm sure, in a lot of situations and circumstances in your life. But I remember when I finally got a job working, and I had a dream. God just brought this to my memory. I forgot about this. I had a dream. You know, my father died on May 17th, which is my birthday, in 2007. My dad died on my birthday. I wasn't a Christian at the time, but I was like, man, that hurt me so bad. And I'm like, every year around that time period, I don't even know how to act. All I know how to do is, my dad's no longer here, eat, drink, and be merry. I don't think my dad wanted me to be sad on my birthday. You know, I love birthdays, but my birthday is just confusing because of that. But anyway, the reason I say it there because my dad was dead. I found God like 3 years later, back in 2010, you know, and I was going through hell and high water. I lost my job, losing the house I'm in. You know, the first job I got was a job working for the Census Bureau. It was like the 2010 or 2011 census or something like that. And I get a job, and I remember this when I first started walking with God. And the first job God gave me was going house to house, door to door to people. I had never done such a thing in my life. I'm kind of shy, but I'm kind of a people person at the same time, and it's weird. But anyway, since I brought that up, I'm gonna bring up another story. This is when I first started walking with God. And I remember I was going to people knocking on the door. How many people in your house? Filling out the paperwork for each house, whatever task they gave me. And I remember I went to one house and I knocked on the door. This is after I found God and realized that I had a purpose. It's like God was getting me used to being around people, entertaining strangers. And I knocked on the door, and a voice in my head was like, keep knocking. I'm like, man, ain't nobody here for to go. But a voice in my head said, keep knocking. So I kept knocking. And eventually an older Caucasian woman comes to the door. And she looked at me kind of funny at first. I'm like, and she was like, how you doing? And you know, the face of, I said, I'm here with the Census Bureau, whatever the spirit they told me to tell. And we sat outside, we was talking outside for a second. She was like, you want to come in for a drink of tea? I'm like, yeah, I come in. We sat down and we started talking. And I remember doing the Census Bureau around that time, and I was seeing so many empty houses that are rotting and falling apart. And I remember the lady just started talking to me. And she was like, you know, I've never been around black people in my life. I grew up in this area. it was I can't remember what area it was. It was, I think, Tallahassee in Alabama. But anyway, she's like, I don't know how to talk. I've been raised this way my whole life, and I don't really know how to talk to black people. And it's like God took me out my comfort zone. Like, most people probably would have got mad over that. I said, you just talk to us like you talk to anybody else. We're no different from nobody else. And it's God started teaching me lessons. Some people just been around so many different ways for so long, and they just never took the time to talk to somebody. And sometimes you just being a child of the God can bring change in somebody's life. So after that, she started opening up to me. She said, you know why a lot of these houses are falling apart and nobody's in them? Because there's a lot of racist people who don't want certain people to be in these houses. They just rather let them rot. And we talked for about an hour. And I felt like with God's help, she probably went away a changed person. She probably had a different understanding of black people. I said, I don't know where that story came from, but it came, I forgot all about it. But anyway, so a lot of stuff like that happened when I was doing the census work. But let's fast forward to the future. I had a dream. And in the dream, my dad visited me. My dad was like, I like that truck you got. And I'm like, yeah, it's all right. And my dad was like, be careful of these women now. He said, be careful of these women. I'm not saying it was my dad for real, but that what God used. He was like, be careful of these women. I didn't take really heed to it, but I was like, it stuck with me though. Soon after I get a job working at a furniture store, delivering furniture. And we get a young woman working there. I was probably about close to 30, or late 20s. She was like in her early 20s. And I was married at the time. And I remember she used to always flirt with me. She used to always tell me stories like, my husband is, but I'm reading the Bible at the time. My husband, he stay over here and I'm just here. What you doing this weekend? Nothing. I ain't finna do nothing. You need to come by the house one day. I'm like, no. Then I started meeting her husband. Her husband come up there and help out when the guy I was with was not working. And I was like, he's a pretty cool dude, you know what I'm saying? But I remember, like, I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. I gotta tell the whole story. My wife at the time is white too. And I remember my wife came to the job and my boss lady was white. And I remember my wife came to the job and brought me something. And I remember my boss at the time called me in the office and be like, Houston, I didn't know. I'm like, know what? Then she pointed at her skin color. I'm like, I didn't think that was important. Whatever. I ain't finished yet. But you know, it's like she always kind of flirted with me. And then another woman started working there. And I'm like, what in the world? And anyway, she took a liking to me too. And I'm just being real. I'm not trying to sugarcoat like I'm nothing. I'm nothing, man. I'm just a regular human being. Look average just like anybody else. Crooked teeth, moles on my face. I'm just, what's special about me? Nothing. Nothing special about me. And I remember she had a husband. And her husband went to jail. And I remember a lot of times one time she locked her keys out the door. And she was like, she called the shop. She was like, Houston, could you come over here and help me get in my house? So I called. I mean, my boss lady said, go in there and see if you can help her get in the house. So I went over there and I helped her get in the house, right? And anyway, I come back to work. I remember she was talking to me and another guy there. She was like, it was an Alabama game, Alabama versus LSU, I remember. She's like, you want to go to the Alabama game with me? And then she was talking. She was like, I want to go with somebody who got much to you lose as me. I'm like, I ain't going. I said, I ain't finna do that. I'm not finna do that. And I refused. And you know, after that, and I kind of refused my boss lady too. You know, after that, they tag team and got me fired. They tag team and got me fired. Said I was causing trouble and stuff like that. And I even fought the unemployment people. I lost. And I was just doing what was right. That's amazing, ain't it? But I thought the dream came to my mind after. I'm like, my daddy told me And then if I think it from a spiritual perspective, my daddy told me to watch out for these women. But I think literally I passed the test. I even told my auntie about it. My auntie was like, Houston, you know, situation don't come like that. You should have did it. I was like, wow. People's perspective. And I'm like, I told my brother him. People I knew. You should have did. You probably would still have your job right now. And think about it. I was reading the Bible and all this at the time. I'm like, golly. Revelation, the top of revelations. Just, God, I can't believe this. I just lost my job by doing the right thing. Amazing. How you like them apples? And that's the truth. And you as a child of the God probably going to go through same things like that too. People are going to try you. I failed some. I know I did. I really did. But let me pause and I will continue.